Today's 4 Deep Sports Talk production is brought to you in part by Mediterranean Bar and Grill of Taunton. Visit them at medbarandgrill.com. By Soares Pumping. Simply the best at what they do. Visit them at soarespumping.com. By Frank Bedak Law Office. Visit them at bedaclaw.com. And by Physical Therapy U. Visit them at ptuclinic.com.
Messineo. I'm Italian.
I like it.
And it's, what's the name of the company?
It's time for your local sports attention getter. It's 4 Deep Sports Talk. Come listen to the sports stars of tomorrow. You can call in at 508-222-1320 on WARA 1320 AM.
Good morning, everybody. I am way pitched too high. I gotta find out which one's me.
Oh boy.
There we go. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Hey, it's a miracle. Nothing caught on fire.
He's been gone a week on a special assignment. You already forgot to work. You already had to work the show.
It's a lot sunnier
Oh,
in Florida.
Meanwhile, what is going on,
I
guys?
have
You're
to
listening.
tell you, though, it was a fun show last Saturday. Fun freeform Saturday.
I'm sure it was. Meanwhile, what is
Oh,
going
my
on, guys?
goodness.
You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here in News Station 1320 AM WARA. You can listen to us online at 4deepsportstalk.com, all in one word. Or you can also check us out on our Facebook page. I am Lucas Vicente here with Dominic Damiano, Lucy Cabral, TJ Albin, Alex Melo, and the sports master himself, Justin Ferrera. We also have a guest speaker today, Dr. Steve Messineo. Did I pronounce that right?
You nailed it. Nice.
Ah, welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Dr. Steve.
Have you Steve's fine.
So, Dominic, how was last Saturday there?
Saturday was 75 degrees and sunny.
Oh my gosh.
I went to the
Nice.
Dolphins game.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot.
Except for
of fun.
the ending.
Except
Yeah,
for the ending.
right.
I still sit in my chair and think about it. You know, it's crazy.
Everyone at the game probably had their mouths open like,
Huh?
No, I can only imagine your reaction just sitting there in the chair.
I was
You
shaking
got
my
a drink
head. I
in one.
couldn't
You
believe
got a
it.
drink in one hand. You got your phone in the other. You're like this.
I got two drinks that cost $23.
That much?
I swear to God, it cost $23.
For one drink?
For two
Jeez.
beverages.
For two drinks?
Yeah.
That is
2 beers?
Yeah.
Too many.
I don't want.
Wow.
Yeah, basically.
the food and the drinks at stadiums like that, they're really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they got to pay these guys somehow, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Isn't that
Yeah.
nuts?
athletes do make millions of dollars.
So again, we have Steve Messineo, Dr. Steve Messineo. Now in the lobby, you said you didn't care what we called you. as long
Steve's
as-
fine.
Right. As long as we don't call you late for lunch. Right? Right. So Steve, I thought, and again, you're helping us out with Kelly Duggan from Physical Therapy U, who's going to be on, but she had some prior commitments. But again, thank you for coming on. So I thought it would be cool, and we're going to have her on in the springtime, and maybe we'll have the pleasure of having you come on and we'll talk
Sure.
spring sports. And as you know, we cover high school youth sports in southeastern Mass, and do the same thing on the Facebook Live. Maybe a little bit different today because we're having technical problems, but we'll still try to get the game somehow covered today. But anyway, basketball's kicking in, hockey's kicking in. How long have you been in this practice now?
So my practice has been open since 2002.
Okay.
And
Wow.
yeah, we've grown pretty significantly over the years. We now have a 4,500 square foot physical therapy facility up in Shrewsbury, and also a sports training / fitness center attached under the same building. That's about 9,700 square feet. So it's a really cool facility, and we get a lot of athletes working with us over there.
Now, do you also do somewhat of like athletic training at like a particular high school?
So we have a good relationship with our local athletic trainer at Shrewsbury High. He actually was working for us for several years, and then the town decided he was so good that they decided to hire them themselves, which is fine by us. We have a good stronghold in the community, and we have a great relationship with him, and so it's worked out great for everybody.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
So how far is your reach in the community? How many times do you think you actually cover all high schools?
Yeah, I would say as far as our reach in terms of people coming to our facility, we're pretty much a 5 to 10 mile reach typically, as far as people coming to our center for either physical therapy or sports training and that type of thing. So, towns like Northborough, Westborough, Millbury, Grafton, Worcester, and we get draws from those towns surrounding Shrewsbury.
So tell us a little bit about the practice and the athletes that go. youngest, oldest?
Sure, sure. So we see athletes pretty much of all ages. They start as young as they're still in elementary school, and
Wow.
we have actually a lot of we get a lot of baseball players that come in with throwing injuries, and my business partner is has a training program for athletes specifically around throwing. And showing them the proper mechanics, which is outstanding. And I think these kids walk away from working with us, whether it's in the clinic or in one of our training programs, really understanding how to use their bodies appropriately so they don't injure their elbows or shoulders and so forth. So that's been a nice little thing, niche for us as far as working with baseball players. But we see athletes of all types: football, basketball, hockey. We don't see wrestling. I don't think Shrewsbury has a wrestling program, but you name it, we see kids across all ages and across all sports in the area. So.
And what is the number one injury
Well, that's tough. I mean,
kind of take care of over there?
yeah. I mean, geez, that's a hard. I'd say if I'd say number one injury among athletes, I'd probably say shoulder, and even elbow injuries are pretty common, as well as knee injuries.
Well, you see that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, knees can range from patella tendonitis type stuff, where it's just wear and tear, and as their bodies are growing and developing muscle, and causes some strain on their joints and so forth. And we also get people who've had ACL injuries or MCL injuries, and we can help them through post-surgical rehab as well. Same thing with shoulders and elbows. It could be a minor strain or a laxity in the shoulder joint that needs some general strengthening, posture stabilization, that type of stuff, so that they can throw and have the right mechanics and not put additional strain on those joints that they're using for their sports activities.
Now, for leg or ankle injuries, what would take longer to heal? If it was to be broken or to be fractured?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. Fractures and breaks are the same thing. But really, it depends on the severity of the fracture. Some, you can have a stress fracture, which is not a full break of the bone, and they still require a certain time healing. So the bones generally take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to fully heal on average, and that's again depending on the severity of the injury. So stress fractures may be a little bit less, but mostly we're probably looking at 6 to 8 week recovery time, regardless of the injury. And then of course, after that healing period, there's still some time for rehab and getting the muscle stronger. And because when you're not using those joints, body parts, because of the fracture, you lose your muscle strength and stability, and so you need some time to really build that up and be prepared for the sport you're playing.
That's because normally once that injury is not it's not hurting no more, it's not like you can just go back on playing right away. You have to take some time to fully recover and make sure it's 100%, because there's always a setback during the recovery process, or if you decide to just play through it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You don't want to. A lot of kids obviously want to get it back out in the field as soon as they can, avoid missing an entire season. But our approach is that doesn't make a lot of sense, because they're only putting additional strain on an already healed bone. If we're talking about fractures, and if they don't have the right muscle strength and stability, they're definitely at greater risk for re-injury.
Now, as far as your certifications, you have to have certain certifications to do what you have to do besides, having a doctorate in what you do, correct?
Yes.
What is, sometimes people, look at this person, I'm being hypothetical, of course, where they look for a physical therapy place, but they might not have this certification. What are the things you need to look for as a parent to get someone that's basically legit, I guess is the right way to say it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, not all physical therapists have sports-specific certifications. But at the same time, it really depends on the facility itself. For example, my business partner and my director of operations both have their certified strength and conditioning certifications.
Yeah.
I don't have that. But at the same time, it doesn't make me less qualified to work with athletes, because as a whole, as a team, and that's what I would say to look for is, you have a team organization. You have a group of therapists that are learning from each other, that are taking the same approach toward providing physical therapy care, especially for athletes. We do have that in our facility, in that both Mark and Pam are constantly providing education to our therapists and getting them up to speed with exercise progressions, especially for athletes, and obviously post-surgical protocols and that type of thing. So it's a constant learning process in our facility. And so if you're looking for a physical therapy facility, you want to make sure that there's a strong team in place, that there is at least one or two providers with a strong strength and conditioning background, but at the same time that everybody is on the same page for how they're approaching certain conditions and injuries.
So to get to step back, it's something you said earlier in that question I just asked you. I guess it would be more like a ghost story. You go in and your son, hypothetically, Johnny goes in there and they take a certain approach, and then that doctor or physician or therapist, I should say, isn't available. So now you have Sally taking care of your son Johnny, and doing all these things up there, and then you realize this therapist is taking a different approach. Is that a warning sign that a parent needs to look for?
It's not. It's a warning sign if their son or daughter is not getting seeing the progression that they want out of the healing process.
Okay.
And at that point in time, if again you have a good therapy group, the lead therapist, who's taking responsibility for that athlete, should be in tune with what's going on. So, for example, if Mark sees a patient and then because of scheduling challenges and so forth, another one of our therapists are taking care of that patient afterwards, it's still Mark's responsibility to stay in touch with the patient themselves, with the therapist, making sure the protocols are in the right place, making sure that they're making the progression that they need to get back out on the field and that type of thing. So that's what I mean about team approach. It's not
Right.
just handing off somebody and hoping that it gets better. And certainly if there is a lack of progress, then having the lead therapist being in touch with the parent, the athlete, and of course having a discussion of, okay, this is not working as well as we thought it would. What are the steps that need to be taken to relook at the program we're giving them, and get them get that program adjusted so the athlete continues to make progress in physical therapy.
Now, you mentioned about the certifications your team has, right? It sounds like a beautiful facility. I was gonna comment on, gee, it's only that big, but but what are some of the warning signs? I guess to get direct to my point, what are some of the warning signs parents should watch out for when their kids start therapy, and let's say they're a month in? What are some of the signs where they know maybe this is not just working, or maybe this person or this facility isn't what they say they are?
Yeah, for us, I mean, we look at it as a team that, look, if you're not making any progress within six to 8 visits, and I'd say more like on the 6 side of things, that's a question. That's a red flag. That's a question. We should see some step-by-step progress along the way. The athlete should start feeling better. The athlete should start being able to do what they start seeing the steps, seeing the progression with respect to their stability, strength, range of motion, and we should be able to document all that. So, of course, there's what the athlete reports to us, but it's also what we take for measurements with respect to that particular injury, and seeing that progress. If progress is not being made, then of course the discussion needs to be had of, okay, what do we need to do to make this better. So if somebody's in therapy and they're not making progress, and the therapist isn't talking to you, and they're just going about, we'll just come in next visit, and they're not having a discussion with the parents, that's a red flag typically.
Well, we look forward to hear what you have to bring for the rest of the show. But for now, we're going to go on our first break here. You're listening to 40 Sports Talk here, news station 1320 AM WARA, and online one word, 40sportstalk.com. We'll be back with more right after this.
Today's 4 Sports Talk production is brought to you in part by Mediterranean Bar and Grill of Taunton. Visit them at medbarandgrill.com. By Soares Pumping. Simply the best at what they do. Visit them at soarespumping.com. By Frank Bedak Law Office. Visit them at bedaclaw.com. And by Physical Therapy U. Visit them at ptuclinic.com.
We thought, like you mentioned,
Sure.
we'd talk about, even on the phone, after that last first break. So what are the biggest injuries? First we'll go into the injuries, then maybe we could follow up with how to prevent it, because you mentioned a good point with baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Bad baseball mechanics can hurt a kid at a young age. I mean, who wants to see a kid with Tommy John?
Right.
And you probably see that through your years of experience in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
trying to do a crossover the wrong way, trying to cross, anything,
Yeah.
shot, there's so many things. Mechanics on taking a free throw, mechanics taking a jump shot, So if you could just educate us, please, and then go over the preventive stuff that you guys recommend.
Sure. So with basketball, we tend to see a lot more lower body injuries with knees, ankles, maybe even occasional hip injuries. And so for us, it's trying to help those athletes recover from them as quickly as possible. So common things we see are ankle sprains, and could be as simple as a player doing a crossover and rolling his ankle or getting stepped on. Knee injury, same thing. They plant one direction. The knee, unfortunately, doesn't want to go that way, and can cause a multitude of different injuries out in that case, including ACL and tears or meniscal tears, that type of thing. And so those are the ones we typically see with basketball. Because basketball is a high impact sport, especially for the lower extremities, with all the jumping, running, cutting, moving in different directions. What we really try to do for those athletes from a preventative side of things is focus our training on addressing those areas. So plyometric agility type drills, getting the muscles to not only just get stronger from a purely strength standpoint, but also be able to handle the impact of those movements that they're going to be doing on the basketball court. So, specific training drills to address the neuromuscular coordination, their proprioception, their ability for the bodies to react appropriately and in a supportive way to prevent the type of injuries that we see with basketball. So that's kind of what we focus on with our strength and conditioning programs for athletes going into the basketball season.
Now, have you and your team ever gone, I think someone might have mentioned about going to a high school and maybe worked on something like this as far as the proper mechanics to not just dribble the basketball, but to shoot the basketball? Like you talked about lower extremities injuries in basketball. Mm-hmm. The kids, after shooting wrong, bad mechanics, they could probably end up with, I don't know, pushing them better than me, tennis elbow or some type of possible Tommy John thing from
Sure.
being so lazy, not doing it the right. I guess that's the right way to say it, because you're being lazy on one side of your body,
Right.
and you're not equaling it out with good mechanics just to get off the shot.
Yeah, we have not specifically our practice. We don't specifically go out to the high schools and do that type of thing. Usually, what we do is we address it within our summer strength and conditioning program.
Yep.
And yes, it's in the summertime, but at the same time, it's perfect an athlete for really sports throughout the whole year. As far as looking at upper extremity injuries with basketball, certainly some of the things you mentioned are commonplace. But like I said, we typically see a lot more lower extremity injuries for basketball. That's kind of where we focus with the athletes. When we're talking, with jump shots and that type of thing, you can get some elbow problems, get some shoulder problems, and that usually is a result of lack of strength, lack of stability. Athletes growing, they're growing into their bodies, and they're not quite ready for all the strain of the sport. And so whether it's with basketball specifically, we'll focus on some shoulder strengthening, stabilization, postural stabilization, so that they're using their upper bodies the right way. And by the way, for across all sports, core strength, lumbar strength, abdominal strength, using your body and your trunk and muscles to help you with your overall mechanics, help your drive, your power, and all the things that you do as an athlete is super important. So really, that's a foundation for us when we're working with athletes.
Now, the parquet obviously doesn't give way like we hope, though. It's kind of like the ice, and we'll get to that later.
Sure.
Do you see a lot of those injuries from parquet injuries, the way kids fall?
I can't say that I can recall, that we see a ton of injuries because of with kids landing on the parquet the wrong way.
Yeah.
Frankly, when we see most of the athletes we see in basketball season have already been injured, so we're not really working with them in preseason. And it's a tough transition in high school sports, as you can imagine. If an athlete's playing a fall sport, they get right into the winter sport within a couple of weeks for that next season. And so the time for them to do any preseason training is limited depending on what fall sport they're playing and how long that season lasts. So unfortunately, for us, we end up seeing a lot of the athletes as they're coming in after being in the sport and being injured, whether it's at practice or during the game. We do recommend between seasons that they're you have to keep the body fit to some extent. It's like maintaining a car. If you don't change the oil in a car every 3,000 miles, well, guess what? Over time, it's going to create wear and tear and problems. Well, that's kind of the same thing we preach as far as between sports seasons at the high school level is, look, we're not looking for you to go full bore into a complete strength and conditioning program in that time frame. However, you need to do some of the basics. Keep the muscles strong with some, not so much light resistance, but moderate resistance exercises. Keeping yourself flexible. Flexibility is a huge piece.
Yep.
Making sure the muscles are lengthened the right way, but are able to still provide the support around the joints that are commonly injured. So, those are the type of things we'll recommend. But it's really rare that we get to work with those athletes in between seasons
So
before they
almost
get
like
into
keeping
the
up
winter
with
season.
the conditioning.
Yeah.
So if you're going from, like, say, for example, going from football almost to doing that high strength and conditioning to going even like into track where you're just like a runner. Almost
Yeah.
in that kind of extent.
Right.
Even though it's different workouts, you're just trying to keep up with it.
You're trying to keep up with it, but you're also tailoring it to what what that athlete needs going into that next season. So if they're going from football to indoor track,
Right.
well, okay, you're not gonna, you may not do the same type of exercise you're doing for football for indoor track.
Right.
And never mind, football is one of those sports where you need some time to recover too. So you may need to take 2-3 weeks off before you start really getting back into, a program that's gonna prep you for, indoor track. So there is that transition phase where you're depending on the fall sport you're playing, you have to have, a little bit of rest time, a little recovery time, and then gradually get back in keeping your body tuned up with the right balance of strengthening, flexibility, general conditioning exercises to get ready for that winter sport.
Yeah, exactly. And Dom, not to skip around, I know we were talking about basketball, but I just want to kind of get into track because I did football and track during my high school career, so it was kind of hard to keep up with the workouts that they wanted me to do for football, but also try to keep up to date with what they wanted me to do, like for when I did running, as well as with throwing as well. It's always about like from football to track, or even to baseball, like the form doing shot put as well. For some reasons, like I always used to get like with my right arm, used to get a little bit of pain, so I kind of like going into that transition was kind of a little bit of a hard thing. So if we're going into for track, like you see any throwing injuries, I guess? Or-
Yeah, it's hard to say because again, during that transition phase, we don't see a lot of the athletes coming to us for pre-winter conditioning program. So we don't really know until they actually come in, for during that winter injury. So do we see track injuries with arm problems? I can't say that I can recall. We see such a variety of different athletes coming for different injuries. But what I would say is that what I would encourage athletes to do as they transition from fall to winter sports is if they have an athletic trainer at the high school level that's working in the school, that they talk to that trainer and get some strategies for that transition phase, because the trainers are really there. They're there, from middle of the afternoon to the end of the day or end of the night, depending on when the event is or when practice ends. And those the athletic trainers are very good. A good athletic trainer will help these athletes transition if they don't have access to strength and conditioning programs at facilities like mine throughout the area. For us, we've always kind of relied on our friend Walter up at the high school in Shrewsbury to help those athletes, and he does an excellent job. So, it's hard for me to say that that we work with those athletes because Walter just kind of handles it for us.
Oh, there
which is
you go.
great, so he's done a wonderful job in Shrewsbury.
Now, a question about because you guys are so good with all this. Which sports medicines would you say are most helpful? Which medicines would you say you should not take other than steroids?
As far, you mean like supplements and that type of thing?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, we don't really get into that much. It's we rely on personal trainers, athletic trainers, and make suggestions. Of course, steroids is off the board. That's obviously not. You have to be careful with the supplements you take, though, because some of them can mimic, in terms of their how they show up if you're doing blood testing and that type of
The
stuff.
reaction to it.
Yeah, reaction to it as well. You just have to be, so we don't really get into recommending supplements or anything like that for our athletes because at the physical therapy level, our focus is really how do we get you back on the field as soon as possible? How do we get you back on the court? How do we get back on the ice from a recovery standpoint? And, there are plenty of professionals out there that have an understanding of supplements and how they work and what's right for a kid at a certain age and body type and so forth that we rely on to provide that advice and it's really not something that's really in our practice scope, so we try to stay away from it.
Basically, just do what you can to stay away from from an overdose, right?
Yeah, and there's not a lot of high school athletes that are I don't think there's a lot of supplements out there that are cause you to overdose. You just got to be careful on what you're taking and talk to a professional, talk to a nutritionist. If you're not sure, talk to your sports medicine doctor. They're far more educated in that type of thing than your average physical therapist because that's not really in our practice scope.
All right, so my last question before we go on break is, if you have, and again, you see the injury, you're more like the mash unit trying to get these kids back together.
Exactly.
But as far as advice you can give to a kid going through that adolescence period from 7th and 8th grade, going into freshman, their body, their body's changing.
Mm-hmm.
What type of weight regimen would you recommend for a kid? Let's say, again, playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more thigh work? Is it more squatting? Is it more knee work? Calf work?
Really, I think it's all that. What it comes down to is you have to be able to see the development of that individual athlete. There's no cookie cutter approach because all these athletes are different body types, different growth rates. Everybody's an individual. We're all made a little bit differently, which makes us unique. And so if you approach it with a cookie cutter approach, you might be doing great for one of those athletes, but somebody else is going, oh my God, this is too much, and you can actually be at risk for injuring that athlete. So depending on where they are developmentally, a trainer has to recognize that, okay, this guy can do this guy can start lifting a little heavier weights, doing a little more repetitions, but this kid, he's not ready. He's He's probably good for doing a lot of body weight work. So just squats without weights or more agility, footwork type stuff. Again, stuff that doesn't have a lot of resistance involved. So really, you have to look at the athlete as an individual and put them into the program accordingly based on what they can handle from a resistance standpoint or just conditioning standpoint.
All right, with that being said, we are going to go on to our next break here. You're listening to 40 Sports Talk here in News Station 1320 AM WARA and online one word 40sportstalk.com. We'll be back with more right after this.
The ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, is positioned. It's in the center of the knee. So the direction of the tear doesn't matter. If you tear the knee, what we're going to see is a laxity of that knee in terms of anterior translation. In other words, the knee's unstable anteriorly in the bottom of the leg. You'll also give where we can test for it, and we can feel that there's a give anteriorly as they pull the lower part of the leg forward. And that's a common test that we look at. But we can't really tell how the ligament's torn. I mean, typically you can probably see that more on an MRI.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
All right, no, that's, then what was the other injury we talked about with hockey? What was the second
I see a
one?
lot of back injuries.
Backs?
Yeah, and backs are just because of your the impact. Could be from a check, could be from the way you hit the puck and twist it wrong and just kind of cause maybe a small alignment issue in your back, and they don't have they maybe didn't have the core strength and stability to prevent that from happening, so they come in and just soared. It's more of a getting the building up on their core and getting their quote unquote alignment corrected from their spinal positioning, hip positioning, SI joint positioning, and sacroiliac joint, or SI joint.
Is that lower back or upper back?
That's lower back.
Okay.
Lower back, yeah. And so, a lot of those are just, you gotta give them some time to rest, you gotta give them some general conditioning exercises, core-based stuff. Hips we also do a lot of hip strengthening, and we just gotta make sure that, from a joint positional standpoint, that they're in good alignment, so that they can get back on the ice.
Hello everyone, welcome back to 40 Sports Talk here news station, 1320 AM WARA. You can listen to us online at 40sportstalk.com, all in one word. Or you can also check us out on our Facebook page. I'm Lucas Vicente here with Dominic Damiano, Lucy Cabral, TJ Elvin, Alex Mayo, and the sports master himself, Justin Ferrara. And I have to say this again, it's never a show without the sports master. And we also have our guest speaker here, Dr. Steve Messineo from All Access Physical Therapy.
Yep.
Good job. I apologize for that last break.
That's
But
all right.
we were talking, we were trying to finish up and educate us on hockey injuries, but we were focusing on the lower back.
Yeah, so as I was saying, it's just more with low back injuries. It's a situation where there might be something, quote unquote, out of whack. So
Yeah.
we basically have to get them back into proper alignment, encourage them to do some core strengthening, hip strengthening exercises, so that they can prevent that from happening again. As best to their abilities. Obviously, with the impact of checking and so forth in hockey, there's no guarantees, but we get the alignment straight, make sure they're out of pain, do a lot of strength and conditioning around the core and the hips, and obviously keep them flexible as necessary as well. And that generally is a good, lends to a good outcome for those athletes.
Now, I know we mentioned and we clarified about how it's more about, they get hurt, they come see you, mass unit, doing all the stuff you guys do with that beautiful facility. I can just imagine, just you saying alone how big it must be beautiful.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. So have you ever thought about doing what I mentioned earlier about I don't know if you broaden your horizons and you guys pretty much know what you want to do because you're so successful at what you do already, is maybe like a hockey player, after you think you go watch him, because I see a lot of these other hockey programs, they have therapies, and there's one in Bridgewater, in the way that, they get to see their guys after they come and see you. Have you guys ever thought about doing something like that? You know what I mean? Like, you work with a baseball guy,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Make sure you ever thought about maybe doing hockey, basketball, because we're talking that today, that's why I'm going back to that analogy, where you go and say, okay, let's watch this guy, cross over, go through motions, I got him ready to go. Have you
Yeah.
ever thought about adding that to your repertoire, I guess, to what you do?
Well, it's a little more difficult with hockey because it's it's ice and getting out there, and it's hard for us as a facility of physical therapists to when we're seeing as many patients as we do, to send somebody out to an event. That's why it's always worked out well for us, and having an athletic trainer at the high school who we've known for a number of years, we work closely with, and he's the guy that we go to and say, hey, if you see something that's off, that's not working right or not looking good, let us know, and we can bring that athlete back in and work with them. We do have the facility where we can take a lot of the athletes out into our training area and mimic some of the things that they do. Even with hockey, we have slide boards so we can watch how their form is as far as skating. We can kick them out into the wide open facility, do some agility drills for basketball players, jumping, crossover steps, that type of stuff. So we can really gauge where we think that if they're ready to return to the field within our facility. However, getting out to the games and seeing how that translates to their performance is a little challenge for us. But that's why we rely on the athletic trainer to give us the feedback when they get back on the ice or the court or whatever.
Have you ever thought about doing like a before and after video once you feel like they can stand on their own 2 feet? Like you mentioned the slide board, see them now and then see them in 3 weeks or 4 weeks to see how, is that something you guys do as well?
We do some of that more in our strength and conditioning program during the summer. So we'll get a sense of where the athletes are right from the gates when they start the program. It's a 5-week program. And at the end of the 5 weeks, we actually do a strongman competition and kind of place them in different little competitive challenges. So it makes it fun for them. And meanwhile, we're taking pictures, watching what they're doing, seeing how their performance is, and obviously getting feedback from them in terms of how they feel with respect to getting ready for that fall season and the sports throughout the year.
Yeah, videos don't lie. I know that.
No, absolutely not.
That's for sure.
Go ahead. You ready?
To take it out or?
No,
I'll say it's too early.
I don't know if you have another question.
No, we gotta keep going.
I think I pretty much have asked everything that needs to be.
Are you
asked.
sure?
I'm sure. TJ, you have anything or?
'Cause I can keep on
You guys got
going.
any guest callers I want to call?
Yeah,
Yeah,
508-222-1.
Thank you, Steve.
1320. I got so caught up in doing this, I forgot to mention that. And I know a lot of people probably listen to podcasts, and they should have got the number on the website, but 508-222-1230.
It's 1320.
I said 1320.
We said 1230.
Oh, did I? 132.
Nice going, Dom.
So Steve, just a question for you. Now, like us here, like we all have some like reason that you wanted to do this. Like for us, it's like you want to do communications, not only that journalism. What made you want to go into the sports medicine field?
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you asked that question. I actually, when I went to undergrad, I went to school at UMass, and originally I was looking to become a sports doctor. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And, you know, when you're young at early age and you go to school, yeah, sometimes plans go
Oh,
away.
yeah.
So I ended up working for a couple years, and then I was actually playing basketball, and I blew out my knee playing basketball, and had a surgery, went to physical therapy afterwards, and really started working with a great physical therapist who, you know, basically, you know, really helped in my rehab. But then, you know, I started asking questions about his business and the type of facility, how he saw patients, and he was really great about kind of giving me the enthusiasm that, hey, this could be something I could do. And I actually had some friends who were in college going to school for physical therapy also indicated that they were enjoying what they were doing. So I went back to school for PT and because of that. And I'm glad I did. Ultimately, the reason I did it was not only because to serve people and help people, but because I also wanted to have my own business and have to be able to kind of control my own destiny. So when I got to school, it was always with the idea I was going to open a practice, and I was going to be the facility that grows and has therapists underneath me and working with various people in the community and so forth. So that's what got me into it, and I'm glad I made that decision.
Good for you, Steve. Honestly.
Now, how long has it been now for you?
So we opened our doors in 2002, so All Access Physical Therapy has been around for about 16 years now.
Very good.
And prior to that, I'd worked for a couple of years for an outpatient practice with a couple of different locations in the Metro West area.
So it's fair to say this therapist was your inspiration?
Yeah. He's no longer in the area, but he's actually has his own practice in Connecticut now. A guy named Larry Ross, really good guy, and just kind of got me enthused about the whole process of being a physical therapist. And the great part was after my injury, one of the requirements for a lot of these schools is to get observation, be in a clinic, observe what's going on, understand a little bit about physical therapy before you actually get into grad school. And he basically took me under his wing and let me, ask questions and see what was going on, just be there in the clinic and learn about the different patients, different types of injuries, and he was great.
Great to have people, mentor and look up to and ask for guidance and whatnot. I just think that's great.
Well, and we do too. We actually, you learn from that, and you say, all right, well, I'm going to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
we have a student program. So students come to our facility. We take them under our wing. We do internship with them, get them prepared for working in an outpatient setting. Additionally, we've been recognized by one of the local hospital groups as a facility where they send some of their sports medicine residents to observe what's going on in physical therapy. So we occasionally have some sports medicine residents come down and see what we're doing and how we make an impact with our patient population, and that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, sure.
Fair to say he's pretty busy.
Juggle a lot of balls.
Yeah, right? Bro, I guess.
Definitely.
Well, we appreciate you coming being on the show.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have you on if Kelly doesn't, if Dr. Kelly Duggan doesn't want to come on again. You're more than welcome to come in.
Awesome.
I don't know how you guys did it, but I'm just glad you came on. I'm not going to lie, Kelly's a pretty face, so.
I'm not gonna disagree with you there.
All right, young man, you ready to take it out?
Yes, again, Dr. Steve, we'd like to thank you for coming in. Dr. Steve Messineo, of course, from All Access Physical Therapy, came in today. Gave us very helpful details about healing and all that. And with that being said, I'll wrap things up here. You're listening to 40 Sports Talk here, new station, 1320 AM WARA. For everyone here, Dominic Damiano, Lucy Cabral, Alex Mayo, TJ Albin, the Sportsmaster Justin Ferreira. I am Lucas Vicente. We will catch you guys next time. Everyone have a fantastic weekend.
Today's 4 Deep Sports Talk production is brought to you in part by Mediterranean Bar and Grill of Taunton. Visit them at medbarandgrill.com. By Soares Pumping, simply the best at what they do. Visit them at soarespumping.com. By Frank Bedak Law Office. Visit them at bedaclaw.com. And by Physical Therapy U. Visit them at ptuclinic.com. This has been a presentation of 4 Deep Sports Talk, where high school and youth athletics come first.